Good evening, good morning, everyone. Today is the International Youth Day, the very auspicious occasion of the birthday of Swami Vivekanand. The American Academy for Yoga and Medicine is very much committed to empower the youth in India, especially the medical graduates who are going to be the pillar of the future healthcare system across the globe. So, with that intention, this very organization was founded by none other than Dr. Indranill Basu Ray, who agreed to give a talk on this very day, where his entire life mission was to empower the young graduates into research and how the healthcare can be revisited and the changes in healthcare can be brought. So, to give an introduction, it's a privilege to introduce Dr. Indranill Basu Ray. He's a distinguished cardiologist and is one of the very few cardiologists across the globe whose practices into interventional cardiac electrophysiology, and there are very few cardiologists who does that. And he's also adjunct professor in the University of Memphis as well as the AIMS Rishikesh, which is nothing which adding to his glorified professional career and nurturing young professionals. And he also functions in the capacity of chairman and founder of the American Academy for Yoga in Medicine. And besides this, he's a prolific author and has edited two books, the very first books in yoga and cardiology, that is named as Principles and Practice of Yoga in Cardiovascular Medicine and Yoga, and also another book, Yoga for Cardiovascular Disease and Rehabilitation, published by Springer and elsewhere. Two of the only books in yoga and cardiovascular medicine written by a cardiologist who has an open mind to merge both the sciences of West and the East. So, with this introduction, I would like to introduce her to speak on a very important topic, which I think many of us has not touched before, the biochemistry of yoga, like what yoga does in the biochemistry molecules of the body. So, I invite you, sir, to give your talk.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the nice introduction. I'm not sure I really deserve it. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, welcome to this talk. It is my pride and privilege to present on this very auspicious day, on the birthday of Swami Vivekananda. As all of you know, he's responsible for spreading yoga to the Western nations. Today, the whole world knows about yoga, and the only reason for that is Swami Vivekananda. We are really thankful to him for that. Today, I am going to just share my screen. Just give me 1 minute.
So, we are not able to hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and your video is also off. Yeah, now
Can
it's
you
fine.
guys hear me
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yes, perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove to you guys that human body is by itself the most powerful instrument that God or nature has given us. And the problems of today's medicine not lies in discovering newer and costlier drugs or medications, newer or costlier procedures, which 90% of people cannot afford, but making best use of our own human body. Because as we go through the talk, you'll slowly realize that modern medicine, the so-called miracle of modern medicine, is nothing. Most of the drugs that work today have been discovered because these drugs are copies, or what we call in medical terms, congeners of actual native molecule that body has produced. So it's important to understand that today we are on the brink of a massive disaster. And I'm not exaggerating it. That's the truth. If you look at the global scenario, 70% of death of world's richest country in the US is due to cardiovascular disease. And the tragedy is, even a country like India, 70% of death is also due to cardiovascular disease. In fact, if you look at the prevalence of different diseases, India is going to beat United States of America to have the largest number of heart attacks in 2025, which just started. We already in India have the world's largest number of diabetics. We already have in India the world's largest number of people with high blood pressure. In fact, 50% of the world population have high blood pressure, and 50% of Indian population also have high blood pressure. There is a thought process that may be even more than that. So with this deadly combination, India is going to be the queen of cardiovascular disease. And as I said, cardiovascular disease kills twice the number of people than the next biggest killer, which is cancer. And this has a massive economic impact, as you guys can understand. Today, if you have malaria, the average cost of treating malaria is around 2,000 rupees. Today, you have a heart attack, the average cost of treating that is 6.2 lakhs. You can understand the difference. So like malaria in the 1950s and 60s, we are starting to have that many cardiovascular disease, with the cost difference being 2,000 rupees and 6.5 lakh rupees. You can well understand what an economic disaster it is going to be. And it's not only for India, even for the US, one of the biggest, despite being the world's richest country, it's a lot of the whole medical system is on the verge of disaster unless we find out a new way, a new understanding of how we can treat these diseases. Luckily for us, coming from a society that has practiced yoga or that has understand human physiology for the last 5,000 years, we are possibly way ahead. But then we do lack in certain things, and we are going to talk about that today. And that certain thing is research, showing to the world how powerful yoga is. But before going that, let us talk a little bit as to the power of human body. And I'm really proud to say that India is playing a dominant role in research in yoga, but there are miles to go ahead. So if we look at the basic concepts of cardiovascular disease is not a disease that you acquire from outside. You acquire a COVID-19 virus. You acquire a chikungunya virus. You acquire one of the bird flu, which is supposed to be going on in China now. As usual, we do not know much about it, just like it happened in the early COVID-19 days. Cardiovascular disease is caused by you or me ourselves. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, when your body is a machine, you drive a car, you do not take care of it, you do not fill brake oil, the car will be a junk after you drive 20,000 kilometers. But you take care of your car, you fill in the oil, you clean it every day, give it its appropriate management, the car can run for 200,000 miles. We have to understand that human body is also a machine. If you devastate the machine through stress, if you devastate the machine by eating unwanted things, if you devastate the machine by not having appropriate sleep, you will end up at the age of 25, 30, 40, or 50, as if you're 110 years of age, a complete wreck. The unfortunate part is, in the early part of the century, our thought was, if we could have better medicines, if we could have better procedures, we can beat this. But today, thanks to massive research, we understand that that's not true. Why? Because there's no medicine known to mankind for stress. There's no medicine known to mankind that can make you sleep just like what body makes you sleep. So you might be telling me, what are you talking about, Dr. Basu Ray? There are at least 50 drugs to make you sleep. A drug that costs 2,000 rupees to drug that costs 20 rupees. So why can't we use that? Right. But what you have to understand is, none of them, not one of them, whether it is 2,000 rupees, $2,000, or $10,000, there is no drug known to mankind that can exactly mimic physiological sleep. The only thing that can mimic your physiology is something you do by yourself, not possible to do it by external agent. So it's important to understand, our rishis have understood it thousands of years back, that if you want to stay healthy, if you want to live for 110, 15, 120 years, and you think that's a joke because who's living till 110 years? Yes, there are. As you guys know, a couple of years back, a yogi in Benares who got Padma Shri, he was 125 years old and he had his actual birth certificate. So not that he is lying or anybody else is lying. So human, even if you go to prehistorical records in Puranas, average humans live till 120, 150 years of age. And it's also possible today. The oldest man today who's still living is 120 in India is 125. In Japan is 126 years of age. So it is possible to live if you can control your own physiology and prevent disease and not depend on external factors. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, we need to talk about a concept called healthcare utilization. Modern medicine is breaking down for three reasons. Number one, it is extremely costly. As I said, you can have a good sleep if you reduce your stress. That costs you nothing. Taking the world's best sleep medication will make you sleep for 10 days. On the 11th day, you will not fall asleep. Why? Because body develops resistance against that drug. So number one is cost. Number two is using up of resources. You're using up massive resources which can be used to better things like reducing poverty. And third, very importantly, today India is the fifth largest economy. India in 2047 may become the third largest economy. But what is the use of third largest economy if you start spending 10 times more than what America spends today for your health care? So health and wealth goes together. One cannot go with the other. And that's why it's important to understand that tragedy will result if there's an economic impact which is adverse. And that is bound to happen if you stop using preventive medicine, if you stop using lifestyle changes for chronic disease prevention, rather than you treat chronic disease in the hope of preventing death and prolonging life. Preventing death, yes, in certain cases in modern medicine does help in preventing death, but preventing disease, it has got very little or no role. And to prove the point, most of you know, America is the world's number medical system. As far as money is concerned, pumping money into healthcare. But what is the status of American health? American health is 40th in the world. What is number one? Number one is Finland and Sweden. How much does Finland and Sweden spend on health? Finland and Sweden spends 40 times less than America. Despite that, they are number one, we are number 42nd. Why? The reason is very simple. Every rupee or every dollar that America spends for healthcare, 99 cents or 99 paisa goes for not prevention, but treating acute diseases like heart attack, stroke, heart failure. Whereas Sweden and Finland uses 66 cents or 66 paisa out of every 1 rupee to prevent diseases. So they are number one, despite spending the maximum amount of money. The United States of America is number 40th. So, excuse me. So we have a shifting healthcare model. And this shifting healthcare model is there all over the world. There's a slow shift from what is known to be reactive to proactive. You abuse your body, you don't get appropriate sleep, you take unwanted food, you don't take care of your gut biome, you don't take care of your stress, you end up with a heart attack, stroke, cancer, which is called reactive medicine. You get admitted, you spend millions of dollars, you get treated, you may not die. 70% cases you might even die. Today, something called sudden cardiac death, where people just die suddenly. 70% of death in America, 300,000 people die in America every year from that. There is no treatment. And even if you call emergency, by the time you come to a hospital, you're dead. So that's called reactive medicine. But we are moving from reactive medicine to something called proactive or personalized care. What is personalized care? Personalized care does not mean we take care of you, and because you and your brother or you and your sister is born the same time, both of you need same care. No. Personal medicine means if we have a twin brother and sister, or we have a twin brother, each of them require different care. Why? Because the environment is different, the stress parameters are different. So the reactive medicine that treats human beings like animals, everybody uses the same antibiotic, everybody uses the same therapy, has to be replaced by what is known as a proactive therapy, where you use your own body, the biochemistry of your own body, to prevent diseases and prevent the disaster, the epidemic that world is heading to. Certainly India is heading to in the next decade. All of you guys have heard of opioids, one of the most powerful drugs for pain. So I'll tell you a story that is really not a story, it's a real incident. In 1970s, a group of Israeli scientists developed a chemical which they extracted from the human brain, and they found that the chemical was 1,000,000 times more powerful than everything known to mankind, whether it's fentanyl, heroin, everything known to mankind. It is 1,000 times more effective. So we now call those chemicals a particular name, which I'll just mention to you shortly. But when they tried this on rats, taking from the human being or other animals, they found that the rats are not only happy, they're super happy. Now, they were trying to find out a term for super happy. I mean, there's no English word for super happy, but there is a Sanskrit word for super happy. And the super happy is called bliss or ananda. So they called that first drug ananda amide. Amide because it's a protein, ananda because when you inject it, it causes super happiness or bliss. My friends, this medication, you don't get it. You don't need to go to any pharmacy, any manufacturing unit to buy it. This medicine is produced by you and me. It is produced right inside our brains. So and as I said, it is a couple of 1,000 times more powerful than all the known opioids in the body. You can spend thousands of dollars buying costly artificial opioids in the US, but not beats this chemical that we produce. So it's important to understand that human body itself is a natural pharmacy. It's a very active pharmacy. Why? Because see, we lived on this earth for 6 million years. We may have developed from amoeba to a human being today. So 100 years back, the car was invented for the first time by Ford in America. Today, you have a car that can drive you through the streets by itself. You don't have to drive. That's called Tesla. Tesla drives by itself. It'll stop in red light, go in green light. It'll turn the lane. If you put the address, it'll turn the lane, it'll do everything. If human beings in 100 years can produce a car that is self-driven, imagine the machine that's you and me that lived on this earth for 6 million years, how powerful that machine is. It's extremely powerful. It is sad that we as human beings are lured by the attraction of technology. I'm not saying technology is bad, technology is good, but that technology becomes bad when it is misused for effects that's not appropriate. So the technology, the latest medicine comes from human body. You'll be happy to know that today we have thousands of drugs. Almost every other day a new monoclonal antibody, a monoclonal agonist has been discovered. What are these drugs? These drugs are not artificial drugs. They are just chemical copy of body's molecules. And in my time, people hardly went into cancer. Why? Every cancer patient, as a medical student, every cancer patient I saw died. Today we have oncology where there are millions of drugs that save lives. What are these drugs? Are there some miracle new chemicals produced for the first time? No. They are just copies of human physiology. They are copies, they are biomolecules. So it is important to understand that if your body, despite 22,000 years of modern medicine, all the newer drugs, most of the new drugs that we are producing today are copies of different aspects of human physiology. than how powerful that original body is. We just talked about the opioid, the 10,000 times more powerful opioids. These are released into the brain in nanograms, not even in milligrams, not even in micrograms, in nanograms. They are called endorphins. Why are they called endorphins? Because they are endogenous morphine. Because morphine is a product of the plants. So when this Israeli scientists discovered this, they were surprised that how come this is acting on human being? Because something that belongs to plant should act on plant, should not act on human being. And in the 1970s, they discovered the receptors located deep inside the human brain through which this opioid act, and they were thereafter called endorphin. Today, after this talk, you can sit down, take some long, deep Ujjayi pranayam, and then sit down for meditation. Sit down and think about Swami Vivekananda, the power that he exudes, and you will have endorphin released in your brain. Nobody can stop it. Millions of tests have been carried out, and it has clearly been shown. That's how you open up your own pharmacy. So, as I just said, these natural chemicals come by themselves. We talked about endorphin. Endorphins, unfortunately, are not just painkillers. They are much, much more powerful. Your very existence today is because of endorphin. Today, you're stressed because you need a job. Tomorrow, you're stressed because you need to do your PhD. Day after tomorrow, you're stressed because you're looking for a postdoc. And this continues forever. Fourth day, you may be stressed out because you have a problem with your wife or your husband. Fifth day, because your son is not getting into the appropriate medical school or some other school. So human being is filled with stress. We say stress is a killer. That's an understatement. Stress not kills. Stress decimates the body. It creates all the deadly disease known to mankind, starting from heart attack, stroke, is all caused by stress. Some of the cancers are caused by stress. Though there is some controversy of how many cancers are actually caused by stress, but every cancer specialist in the world accepts that if you already have a cancer and you're stressed out, your chance of getting cured of the cancer decreases. Or in other words, stress propitiates metastasis of cancer. Whether it actually starts cancer is still controversial. Controversial because we just don't know the reason. Maybe tomorrow one of you can find it and get a Nobel Prize for that. So that's what it is. It decimates the brain. There are people who are 40 years old who behave like they're 90 years old. They're completely demented. They don't know where their house is. They don't know who their son is. They don't know where they live. Why? That's the effect of the stress on human brain. It is completely decimates the human brain, kills cells inside the brain. Endorphin prevents all that. So endorphin is more than a painkiller. It is one of those chemicals that possibly gives you life. Similarly, we have dopamine. Dopamine is a reward hormone. But don't forget, dopamine has got negative effects also. And that's where yoga comes. Yoga says take the middle path. Any extreme is not good. Dopamine receptors play a role in neural repair. It accelerates a lot of reward processes, which helps in creating new pathways inside the brain. But dopamine can also be misused. And dopamine misuse results in something called addictions, whether you're addicted to drug, whether you're addicted to alcohol, whether you're addicted to something else. It's all because of inappropriate use of dopamine. That's why today every alcohol rehab center in America, every, not even one. If there's one center that does not teach you yoga, that does not teach you meditation, nobody goes there. So in a country where 150, 200 years back, Swami Vivekananda came and started yoga, in that country, there is no place in the world, no rehab center which does not use yoga for drug or other rehabs. Why? Because we now know that dopamine can, just being a reward hormone, can be abnormally used in patients with addictions. And the only way to treat it is to change your brain. And we'll talk a little bit about that, how you can actually do it. Similarly, we have serotonin, which is a mood stabilizer. Some people believe it's much more than that. We really don't know the power of serotonin. Pineal gland is a powerful system. Some people believe that pineal gland may be the source of a source to connect with the universe. So we as human beings are not always connected. We live in our own small cocoon. Rishis who have meditated for hundreds of years, they have the power to connect to the universe. That's why they can predict things. They can see things from far away. They can see your face and tell you what you are doing. Where does this power comes? Are these miracles? No, some of them are actually not miracles. They are power hidden in a human being that gets shown when you practice some of the special meditative techniques, which could be a discussion for another day, but we'll keep it for today. Similarly, we have melatonin, which unfortunately is called a sleep hormone, but melatonin is the making you fall asleep is the smallest work of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that completely changes and is responsible for evolution of human being on earth. Why do I say that? Sleep is intertwined in our DNA. There is no animal known to mankind till date that does not sleep. You may be surprised, but even there are pictures of Pacific Ocean where large whales, the size of 300 or 400 school buses, are just sleeping. So every animal sleep, because now we know sleep is more than just staying in a different in different level of existence. Sleep is the biological marker of well-being, of tissue healing, of regenerating of your brain, regenerating your immune system. What is cancer? Cancer is just, you take a typist, you ask her to type 40,000 pages, she will make mistake in couple of pages. That's what cancer is. Every day, millions of DNAs are being created. There will be a typing mistake in that DNA resulting in mutagenesis and causes of cancer. But that's where yoga and meditation plays a role. Have you heard of a rishi in our history who has had cancers? No. Why? Because the whole body changes. This typing mistake, the so-called hundreds and thousands of DNA being typed every day. You're sitting and listening to the talk. As you're sitting and listening to the talk, millions of new cells are being created. And as millions of new cells are being created, each of those cells needs to create newer DNA, newer RNA. That it's absolutely possible there may be a spelling mistake. And that spelling mistake, instead of a G is put in your DNA, and that G results in a cancer, in a tumor, either a solid tumor or a blood tumor like AML, ALL. So it is important to understand that body has inherent mechanism to go over this. So I just talk a little bit about some of the anti-inflammatory things. As I said, all the biggest disease in the world, whether it's cardiovascular disease, which kills, as I said, 2/3 of the people in this universe, at least on Earth, is because of inflammation. If you have inflammation inside your brain, we call it stroke. If you have it inside your heart, we call it heart attack. If we have it in your legs, we call it peripheral artery disease. If we have it in your entire body, we call it diabetes mellitus. So they have different names, but the source, the devil, is only one, that is inflammation. So we now know that this inflammation is mediated by stress. This is a picture of how inflammation is mediated. And it starts from the root of the brain, places called amygdala and hypothalamus. And this inflammation results in body producing dangerous chemicals like interleukin 1, interleukin 6, IFN alpha. Through different pathways. We'll not go into the details today, but now we know all the pathways. Some of the pathways, I take that back. We know some of the pathways. Maybe one of you will find out newer pathways that might give you a Nobel Prize. Because in the next 10 years, I think most of the Nobel Prize will come from here. As you know, last couple of years, some of the best Nobel Prizes have come from basic concepts of yoga, whether it's intermittent fasting in 2017. Japan got a Nobel Prize for intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, upvas, is something that we know for 10,000 years. So it just got a little more fashionable today because somebody's got a Nobel Prize, but it has not been fashionable. People in India have been doing upvas for last God knows how many thousand years. But anyway, this is the source of stress, and not only body or yoga has the capacity to decrease all these compounds, But actually, as I talked about endorphin can decrease the production of all the stress hormone. So today, if I put you in the same place where you're going to get stressed out, and we measure your level of interleukin 6, interleukin TNF alpha, and then we take another person who we teach them yoga for 4 weeks, and I put them in the same place, you'll find his level of interleukin 6, interleukin 1 is hardly raised. Why? Because body has got inner mechanism to protect you. Um, will There are different methods for it. I'm not going to go into detail, but one of them is, of course, you can change your brain, the brain waves. So normally, most of us are live in what is called the beta waves. Beta waves causes stress. So most of us, if I do a EEG on our brains, you'll have beta waves. But we have rishis who live in alpha waves, and there are rishis who live in gamma waves. Gamma wave is a wave that was not even known to mankind 25 years back. But when people started coming to America, who were who were rishis or yogis, they studied their brain, and including people like Dalai Lama, and they found a very powerful wave called gamma wave. Normal human beings don't have it. But you practice meditation, you will have bunch of gamma waves coming out of your brain. People, longer time you're a meditator, more powerful waves. And it is now known that these powerful waves are the waves that come out when your brain is tuned to a completely different parameter. A parameter where there's no stress, a parameter where interleukin 6 is not released. Not only that, some of the things that we call miracle, for example, predicting something, that happens when your brain is completely changed. I'll tell you a story that is not really a story, it's a real incident. Paramahansa Yogananda, as you know, after Swami Vivekananda was responsible for spreading yoga or Hinduism maximum in America after Swami Vivekananda. So we had an American was his disciple. So once he went to India, Paramahansa Yogananda, when he came back, he got small gifts for his top disciples. So one of his top disciples, he gave a silver cup. So when he gave him the silver cup, at that time the guy was 65 years old. He completely broke down and he fell to the feet of Paramahansa Yogananda. So Paramahansa Yogananda was completely surprised that what happened. I mean, this guy came in very well dressed, was very nice, was a good disciple. Suddenly he gets a silver cup and he breaks down. And then he tells his story why that happened, and it is there in his book, the autobiography of a yogi, which possibly sold more than Bible. This book, it tells us the story. So 50 years back, when he was just 14 or 15 years old, Vivekananda had come to Chicago and gave his talk. So he heard Vivekananda's talk. Next day, he went to Vivekananda to become a disciple. Even before he could reach the stage, Vivekananda was seated with other VIPs on the stage. Vivekananda saw him. He was at least 20 to 25 feet away from Vivekananda. He didn't even speak to Vivekananda. He just had the thought in his mind that he wants to be the disciple of Swami Vivekananda. Did you know what Vivekananda told him? So Vivekananda told him that I'm not going to be your guru. Your guru is going to come and he's going to give you a silver cup on a Christmas Eve. But unfortunately, Vivekananda's word never came true. 5 years passed, 10 years passed, 15 years passed, 25 years passed. He completely forgot it. 50 years later, what Vivekananda said proved to be true. Imagine the power of that brain that could predict a small incident like this. It is recorded. It is not that somebody is telling you a story. It is recorded. And these are living person who told the real incidences in their life. So you can imagine how powerful your brain can get. Once upon a time, these were called miracles. These were called some nonsense. These were called all bullshit. Doesn't happen in modern medicine. But today, with development of powerful ways to measure human brains like functional MRI and all, we know it actually happens. There is increase in brain function. We still don't know the mechanism, but we know it is possible. One of the mechanism is of course what we know is neuroplasticity. As I said, you develop new types of wave, you completely change your brain. If you're a brain that wants to be anxious, if you're a brain that is stressful, we can completely change your brain. I tell people whom I teach meditation that we can change the brain in just 4 weeks. And today, going into molecular medicine, we know the mechanism that it happens. And as I told you, in the next 10 years, some of these will get Nobel Prizes as we discover how body actually works. So just practicing meditation for 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, you can completely change your brain. You will create newer brain circuits. Your brain will grow bigger. Today, 35% of population in all the Western countries languish in old care centers because they have severe dementia. They don't know who their is. They don't know who their children are. They don't know where they live. But today, if you practice meditation, you will never ever have dementia because your brain will grow. Sarah Laser from Harvard in 2010 showed that 5 years of meditation makes your brain grow by 1 inch. Imagine the 2.2 centimeters, a huge amount of brain that grows. So how can you have dementia? You'll never have dementia. There are other signaling pathway also now we are finding out by which your brain grows and you can change your brain. Even in my medical school days, 20, 25 years back, we were told brain does not grow. Whatever brain you have, that remains. Today, in 20 years, science has completely changed. Not only can you change your brain, you can completely create a complete new brain that is never getting anxious, that can never get stressed out. So it's possible, and modern science support it. So neuroplasticity is one of those mechanisms by which we fight stress on a daily basis. Now, you want to fight stress just to keep yourself alive. You want to fight stress to become the most powerful person on earth. That depends on you. As you practice, that's how it will be. You want to make a huge bicep like a film star. You want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. He went to gym for 22 years. He's got 22-inch bicep. Similarly, you want to have a powerful brain. You have to go to the brain's gym. And brain's gym is yoga and meditation. And you will create what you want. So this is one of the studies where we actually showed that people with COVID-19 you can not only prevent COVID-19, you can decrease the attack of COVID-19 by just practice of meditation. This was published in BMC Complementary Medicine, which is one of the highest in complementary medicine. So it's important to understand that we have the power hidden in ourselves. All the known inflammatory markers that we know to mankind, whether it is caused by COVID-19, whether it's caused by heart attack, whether it's caused by breast cancer, doesn't matter. Everything is reduced by meditation. This is a study in breast cancer patients with and without meditation. And as you can see, people with meditation have a severely decreased release of all the dangerous chemicals like interleukin 6, interleukin 1B, TNF alpha, and all. So when you have a natural inhibitor, tell me one medicine that can bring down your interleukin 6. There is one medicine that was discovered during COVID time, but it doesn't work. So they stopped manufacturing it. But when you have a pharmacy of your own seated in your body, you don't have to spend any money for that. You don't have to go to any doctor, go to any hospital. You can sit in your sofa on your bed and practice it. Why would you try to spend millions of dollars and still not get any effect? So it's important to understand that the body itself is a factory that can produce all these chemicals. This is another study where we tried to do, it was done by Dr. Akshay Anand in his lab. I was one of the advisors for the study, and we wrote down this article finally, which actually showed that this had people in 4 different groups. One is pre-yoga group, then and then one was post-yoga group, people who had did yoga, and there was the people who were trainers who had been doing yoga for a long time. And then we had one group who had one problem, which is maybe one hypertension on medicine or diabetes on medicine, something like that. And we actually showed that there was demonstrable weight loss in people who started yoga for the first time, whereas in trainers there was no weight loss because people who've been doing yoga forever, their weight was already maintained. There was nothing to lose. So that's the other magic of yoga. Yoga balances you to the perfect. Today there are multiple drugs which cost millions of dollars. They're very costly, that helps you to decrease weight. like magic. You can reduce 50 pounds, 50 pounds, that's 25 kgs, 60 pounds, 30 kgs in 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks or 7, 8 months. They're miracle drug. But then what do? They do not reduce only your fat, they kill your muscles also. They kill your protein also. Plus, they're extremely costly. So we do not even know all their side effects till now because they're brand new medication. But what does yoga do? Yoga selectively decreases those things that is non-physiological, like excess weight from fat. It does not kill your protein. It does not make you less healthy, which these drugs will. So if you take one of these drugs, it will kill your protein, it will kill your fat, it will kill every part of your body. You will lose weight, but the loss of weight is cosmetic, not to make you more healthy. If you need to be more healthy, then you have to do exercises, body weight, and that's what yoga does. Similarly, we had other parameters like blood pressure. People with who were trainers, they had no difference in blood pressure pre and post. But people who were trained with yoga for the first time, they had a decrease in both systolic and diastolic BP. We also measured the different lipid profiles. Again, the same story. Not much change in trainers, but people who were naive, they had a reduction in everything. Triglycerides, LDL, VLDL, everything was decreased. So it's important to understand that yoga is that thing that completely changes any abnormal physiology to normal physiology. So drug is a one-way street. You want to decrease weight, it will go on decreasing well till you die. It doesn't stop because it does not know to stop. Whereas yoga will stop the moment it stop working, the moment you have the appropriate balance. So these are a couple of mechanisms by which yoga works. I'll not go into the detail. I'll just talk a little bit about autophagy. As I told you before, autophagy became famous after the 2017 Nobel Prize, where people discovered that if you do not eat for 12 hours, you start living longer. If you don't eat for 14 to 16 hours, your body becomes like an antibiotic. It kills all the viruses, all the bacteria. But the entire concept of not eating has been there for thousands of years. My grandma did not eat a couple of days a week for some gods or goddesses. Just because he did it in the name of God and goddesses, people said, oh, this is all nonsense. This does not do anything. This is rituals. And today, that those same young men and young women are running and saying that, oh, look at this. This is such a fashionable. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is trying to practice intermittent fasting just because it has become more fashionable. What a tragedy. Something that we had for 10,000 years was described as stupid ritual done by old people who know nothing. And the same thing now gets a stamp of science and everybody is running after it. It becomes so-called, within inverted commas, school. So that's how, unfortunately, we human being behave. This is a device that I just implanted, one of the first in the world. The reason I'm bringing this up is you will be surprised how this device works. This device works the exact way that yoga works. This is a $60,000 device that is implanted in the neck that activates the baroreceptors, causing increased vagal drive, and is used for heart failure. Millions of people have heart failure. So this device, we can decrease our to increase our parasympathetic. We don't need to have a $60,000 device. Sit in meditative posture, practice meditation, practice left nasal breathing. You will increase your parasympathetic, and you'll never ever get heart failure. So that's the fun, that we have a $60,000 device which you can do sitting at your own home without spending a single paisa. So that's what concept I wanted to bring through my talk today, that there is nothing which looks so attractive, so new, that is outside the mechanism that body already has. So whether you're trying stopping inflammation using the kappa beta pathway or by cytokine modulation, they are all there within you. You don't need to have an extraneous medication for it. The question is, the source is stress, and there's unfortunately no drug, no mechanism no device that can bring down stress. There's only one device that can bring down stress, that is meditation, where you can change your brain. I'm not going to go into much detail. This is another article which actually had thousands of which actually talks about how yoga works. And of course, we don't know a lot of things how yoga works. And maybe some of the young people out there listening to the talk might find out newer mechanism and publish that. And some of that might actually lead to Nobel Prizes, because this is one of the hottest research now. There's a time in my subject, which was cardiology, was the hottest subject of research. Today, one of the hottest subject of research the world over is yoga. And I think India can play the big role with young people like you guys taking this as a way to prove the mechanism of how yoga works. So these are some of the molecular pathways. One is epigenetic molecules. So, there are different one of the reasons why you have stress is the activation of a gene, over 300 genes called the CTRA gene. Till now, we don't have a medicine, we don't have a drug, we don't have a device that can block CTRA gene activation. But meditation and yoga can. You can block CTRA gene activation. The actual pathway is also known now, so it's no more a mystery. So with that amount of power that is lying within you, it's a shame that we try to copy, learn, run after science that does not come from inside, that is not curative, that is not cheap, that is showy, because people can show off and say, "Oh, listen, I'm using such a huge technology which costs millions of dollars." But what about the millions of dollars of technology that God has really packed within you that you can use? Similarly, about gut health, this is a topic of a whole day. I don't want to spend a lot of time. By just changing your gut health, you can prevent cancers, you can prevent heart attack, you can prevent being depressed or anxious. So every part of human body has got massive capacity to prevent diseases, all the known diseases of mankind, whether it is gastric disease, whether it's a brain disease, whether it is diabetes mellitus, it can prevent. The only secret is you need to practice it. I'm going to stop here. So tapping into body's internal pharmacy, I think, is the way of the future. And slowly, even in countries like America, which depends upon modern medicine as treatment, is slowly moving towards a more preventive, more personalized aspects of medicine. And that's why in America you find all the ways biofeedback devices. There are devices that measures your HRV. Every watch nowadays measures your HRV. You can practice meditation. You can practice meditative techniques. Which, when we teach meditation, we show them how you can actually increase your HRV. And you can, using wearables, you can actually find out. You can change your brain waves. There are devices now where you can sit down in meditation and see if you have alpha wave, beta wave, and these are not very costly. These are all available. The only thing is that we need to bring in modern research to show it. And as I said, today one of the biggest research is in yoga, and that's why journals like Journal of Integrative and Complementary Medicine actually invited us to do a comprehensive review of yoga research in just 1 year. And in that 1 year, we had over 1,000 articles come out. So we had to go through more than 1,000 articles to show that what research is there in yoga. So this is our latest book that Dr. Nair talked about, written by over 50 authors from all over the world, showing how you can use yoga as a treatment. So I know many of you are there who are practitioners of naturopathy, practitioners of Ayurveda, practitioners, and even modern medicine practitioners. This is the way you are going to treat your patients in the future, not by just using medications. Whether they have hypertension, whether they have diabetes, nothing is cured by medicine. Medicine just helps to control them temporarily. The only way to cure these diseases, because these are lifestyle diseases, is by using yoga and meditation. And that's where research is needed. As I said, yoga is one of the biggest research, is one of the largest amount of research today is on yoga. We actually do, Dr. Nair leads a group where we teach yoga, we teach research for 6 months. In that 6 months, so that you can become a researcher of your own caliber, published in some of the top journals. We have another research project which is a little shorter. It's around 3 months. It's a little more aggressive, but the difference is that in the second one, and it's much more costlier because there we also help you to actually publish. So people who are doc, who are postdoc, who are assistant professor, who wants a publication in the top journals, we can use that one. Whereas the 6 months research course is excellent to get published, to help you to learn research so you can publish in some of the top journals. And you'll be surprised to know that some of the top journals today, whether it is modern medical journals, are publishing, have started publishing on role of yoga. Recently, we had a published journal in Circulation, which is world's topmost cardiovascular journal. Last 70 years, it never published a single article on yoga. Now we started publishing article as to how yoga can be used in cardiac rehabilitation. We are actually doing a study on that too, which will be going into publication in a short time. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you very much, sir, for that enlightening presentation. When we all start as a yoga practitioner, so we never look into yoga, how deeply it can work inside the body, and what are the kind of mechanisms we should be aware of, even when we are giving an yoga. So many a times, like in India, because we have pluralistic health culture, and there are a lot of people who practices yoga in different capacity. There are people who take 300 hours practice and come and practice as a doctor, and there are 1 month practitioners, 5 month practitioners, without even having a basic understanding of the human body. So now our audience over here, they are very well trained in 5.5 years under various disciplines of Ayush or in modern medicine. But when you basically look into this particular stuff, they also have limited exposure in terms of the mechanistic basis of yoga. And when you rightly come from the cardiology background and you have extensively done some work on cardiology and merging its use, like the barostem, what you're talking about, like you repeatedly, passionately talk about that in every session we have. But the kind of intricacy it share with the kind of parasympathetic and sympathetic stimulation what we have in yoga. So yoga looks like yoga is going to be the future, and integrating yoga with different disciplines is going to be definitely help out people. So with this session, like we all intended, like when we discussed about this particular topic, what you want, what we want to hear from you, and we discussed that the biochemistry of yoga is something will be very interesting for all of us, especially I and my colleagues from the yoga naturopathy background will be definitely interested to take this forward. And of course, like a Nobel Prize is something which you all aspire for taking, and that you rightly told. And there is one question from one of our attendees, like how meditation helps in activating the baroreceptors.
Yeah, so there are different techniques of meditation. One meditation technique starts with what we call as Ujjayi breath. So when you take up Ujjayi breath, what Ujjayi breath does is it increases when you take in the breath and then you hold it and then you let the breath go and then you hold it. What we call in yogic terms as kumbhaka. So there is kumbhaka with breath inside, there's kumbhaka with breath outside. Both of this stimulates the parasympathetic vagal nerves inside the brain. Other than that, we now know also that the practice of Ujjayi using radioactive water and giving an injection of radioactive water, we can actually trace the CSF movement inside the brain from the spinal cord. So when you do meditative techniques, what happens is there are selective areas inside the brain that is activated. For example, the amygdala, the hypothalamus, which is the source of stress. So we have to learn this. Let me step a little back to explain a little better. So one part of the brain that we share with our dinosaur or today's equivalent of dinosaur, which could be a crocodile, is the amygdala and hypothalamus. That is where our emotion stays. So if you are a practitioner of, if you are a yogi, you will slowly find after 10, 15 years, when I do a functional scan, your amygdala and hypothalamus is not activated at all. Why? Because you have controlled all these basal emotions like anger, stress. So when you practice meditation, there's selective activation of different size, like locus ceruleus, superior gyri on the top of the temporal lobe, and the midbrain, which is the vagal center. They get activated. Now you might ask me, why are they activated? We don't know, but we know they're activated. We didn't know even they were activated. Why? because in the olden days you had to put in an electrode while you are doing a surgery in somebody's brain to do research. Now, thankfully, I can take any of my participants without harming him or her at all. I can do the same research because we have something called functional MRI. We have something called functional PET scan. So there we find when we do Ujjayi breath, when we do left nasal breathing, that is called Chandra Bheda Pranayam, that severely activates the parasympathetic, starting from the aortic bodies up to the midbrain, where the vagal midbrain pons, where the vagal nucleus lies, nucleus ambiens lies. So we do not know why it does it, but the rishis knew this. They may not know how it does or where it does or what is the biology, but they knew it. And that's why these have been described in multiple of Indian ancient text, that what it does. So yes, meditation, different techniques of meditation, whether meditation using breath, which is there are different methods. There's some Buddhist techniques of like Vipassana also uses breath. There are some Hindu techniques like, I mean, there's nothing called Hindu Buddhist because all are Buddha did not describe any new religion or anything. Buddha just wanted to change Hinduism to its pristine form and wanted to release all the rituals that had crept into Hinduism. It's 400 years after Buddha that they created a different religion called Buddhism. So core of Buddhism, other than one or two things about the existence of God, but that's philosophical. Let's not go into that. But scientifically, it's same as the yogic techniques are same. So these yogic techniques, whether it's through breathing or large breath, or by just concentrating on one part of the brain, that's also possible when you can concentrate. So there's the concept in Hindu philosophy that when your thoughts are like a pinpoint and focused on one part of the body, like inside your brain, when you're into deep meditation, and at that time you actually generate gamma waves. And you can try that yourself. Anybody who practices meditation can use something. There are little costly, it's around $200. It's a brain map which you can put on your brain and actually map your waves. You will see that your parasympathetic discharge increases. And again, why it does it, we don't know. But multiple meditative techniques, multiple breathing techniques actually increases your parasympathetic.
Yes. So, sir, there is one additional question. Like I'm taking that first. What will happen when a person practices meditation in a wrong way?
That's a good thing. Good question. So the good news is that there's nothing. That's why meditation is should not be learned by any Tom, Dick, and Harry gurus. And every doctor needs to become a guru because if you are a naturopathic practitioner, you should be the first yogi who should understand the medicine. You have to understand this. Today we have Tom, Dick, and Harry, uneducated, becoming a guru. I have no problem with that. Ramakrishna was uneducated. He didn't even go to class 8. But the man who could go into samadhi in a second, you don't need any formal education. But today we have gurus who neither have a formal education nor they have spiritual practice. That's why wrong meditation can sometimes harm. As I said, like say dopamine. Dopamine is like a two-edged sword. You use dopamine properly using meditation, dopamine will pay you throughout your life. If you want to become an addict, dopamine will help you to become an addict also. So it's the same chemical, how you use it, that's what it is. So for practice of meditation, I think you need to practice from gharanas which are real, from people who have been practicing like Kriya Yoga or Ramakrishna Mission, who have gurus who have been trained in the system. Gurus coming out left, right, and center. Like I come from a powerful guru technique called Kriya Yoga, which I practiced for since I was a kid, 6 years of age. And these techniques cannot be learned from YouTube. If YouTube made you Ramakrishna or Adi Shankara, then everybody would have become Adi Shankara today. All that I can say is that try to learn the science, and as you practice, you try to learn from a good guru. And as Vivekananda told over and over again, test your guru. Does he know? How much does he know? As the guru says, he knows Shiva. Where has he seen Shiva? If he has seen Shiva, he wouldn't be sitting on earth today. So you can pick up this nonsense easily. And that is what is needed in India. India needs spirituality. India needs science and spirituality. How Buddha described how brain interprets things is still true today. Today, you have a 5,000 pages old book in neuroscience, but what Buddha has described sitting under a banyan tree stands true till today. You might have little more sophisticated term, but the basic mechanism that he expressed is same, ditto same today. What does that show? That shows that formal education um, and the knowledge is important, and the knowledge should come from appropriate sources. And there, where you are at doubt about the knowledge, read, study. There are tons of research on mindfulness, meditation, how does the molecular level changes inside the brain, and find out if what somebody is saying is true or false.
Yeah. So I don't know this is relevant or not. Like whether yoga can cure deviated nasal septum.
No, organic. So deviated nasal septum is not an organic problem. It is a structural problem. So there are two part of it. One is, can it make your deviated septum normal? It cannot. But can it prevent the disease due to deviated nasal system? Yes. So deviated nasal system, you and I might have, but I may not have any symptom. But X or Y may have symptoms. So it is the symptom that can be cured by yoga, because what happens when you have a deviated nasal system is the one side to which it is deviated, there the passage is blocked. And you get cold or there is inflammation, it swells up and completely blocks the nasal passages. And that in long term leads to infection of the sinuses, your voice changes, a lot of things happen. But if you practice yoga, there are tons and tons of study that you can increase your immunoglobulin A almost 100 times. Inflammation through the nasal endothelium is prevented by immunoglobulin A. Immunoglobulin A is the gateway that prevents infection to your nasal mucosa. You will prevent swelling of your nasal mucosa. So though you may not prevent your deviation, the deviation will not go back to normal because it's a structural problem. But the disease due to deviation, you can absolutely control without any surgery whatsoever. Any surgery, just by practice. Have I answered that question properly? Have
Yes, sir.
people understood that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there is another one question. Can yogic intervention be standardized? Like, can all the people who practice yoga can generate the same results all at the same time?
Absolutely. And that's what we showed in multiple study. It has to be standardized. Otherwise, you will have this Tom, Dick, and Harry getting up to become great gurus, minting money, going traveling in living in 7-star hotels, and flying private jets, and calling, say, that technique is the best technique. There's nothing called best technique. The only technique that is there is given by Patanjali, followed by starting from Adi Shankara to everybody. It has to be standardized. Now, the question is, standardization is required because otherwise, what will happen? You will have every Tom and Dick and Harry creating a new organization and saying mine is better than yours. It is not mine and yours, yours and mine. These techniques have come for thousands of years. And today, modern medicine has shown that you can prevent your diabetes gets better treated, your obesity decreases by just 4 weeks of yoga practice. If you have cancer, you're taking the most toxic cancer drug. You may not have any side effect if I prime you beforehand. World's number one cancer hospital, MD Anderson, treats all breast cancer patients with yoga. They are taught yoga even before they are given any chemotherapy. They are not fools. They are not some stupid hospital in India trying to fool people. They're the world's number one cancer center. So why are they practicing yoga? How many hospitals in India have departments on yoga? MD, all the top cancer hospitals in America have departments on yoga. Can you believe that? So we in India do not believe in our own knowledge. But when it comes from the US, you become slave to it. That's the tragedy that we have. And that is what I think I'm proud that I have Dr. with Swami Vivekananda's blessing that we are giving a talk today. Today, America stands due to Swami Vivekananda. Today, millions of Indians are CEOs and heads American thing because of Swami Vivekananda. India used to be a pagan country with Hinduism becoming a pagan religion. Today, you are proud to be a Hindu in America. Somebody who was fighting to be the president of America was a Hindu. And that never happened in 200 years history of America. So you should be proud of what you are. You should be proud of your system. I agree. There is a lot of science to be discovered in yoga. Do that. Let's do that. We use a drug called metformin for last 100 years. Till today, we do not know how metformin works, but we know it works. So are we going to throw away metformin? No. There are millions and billions of prescription every day. Despite it being available for 100 years, we still do not know the exact mechanism of action. Same with yoga. We may not know what it does, how it does, but tomorrow we will. So it's important to change our mentality and stop having that monkey mentality. Okay, if monkey dances, I'll also dance. It happens in America, so I'm also do. What about your own culture? What you have discovered for 10,000 years? Let's do that first and see. Let's bring out the science in that first.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. So with that, we end. Like there was one question: how to avoid cancer. So that is a generic topic. So we, for the interest of time, we are not taking this at this point of time. Yes, AYM. The basic motto of AYM is to standardize things, be it yoga or be it other components of integrative medicine. So that's why, Dr. Basu has already mentioned, we are running two programs where the primary intent of those programs is to teach people how to look into research. And we have made this two fellowships. One is MD research. As we told, it's a 3 months rigorous program where we will be hand holding you for publishing in leading journals. Like it's not like that you will be just getting into some UGC journals. It will be really into the leading journals, which the mentorship of the people who are involved with that particular program. You can get to author with leading cardiologists, to the likes of Dr. Basu and many people who will be working in different parts of integrative medicine. That's the one thing. Second thing, this AYM 6 months fellowship program that I am heading, where we will be having different experts from their own disciplines. Like we'll have one person from a qualitative study coming and teaching you, mentoring you for that particular domain. Another one guy will be coming for statistics or the meta-analysis. So we have different kind of people who will be coming into and teaching this program. And we would like to invite you to visit our website, aym.org, so you can find out different aspects of these two programs. And along with that, Dr. Venu has requested us for continuing this series, because we thought of ending it up on today. But however, we are also planning to have at least two sessions like this with different people who will be working in different domains, will be coming and teaching you. Like the one session we had, a very insightful session, and in the past, Dr. Patwardhan, Dr. Rajesh Kotecha, and many people who are the leaders in their own domain have came and spoke to us. And we will try and continue the same thing at least twice in a month so that we can keep engaging you. It's not about just conducting research fellowship program. Also, we genuinely are interested in empowering our people, making you to meet the leaders in integrative medicine and yoga, and that is the primary motto of AOIM. So thank you so much, guys. On a Sunday, you joined us and listened to us, and thank you so much, Basu sir. It is morning there, early morning, 6 o'clock, and you have spent a considerable amount of time with us, and we are very privileged to listen to your talks. Thank you.